the record, my name is Brian Worrell, District 4 City Councilor, and I'm Chair of the Boston City Council Committee on Ways and Means. Today is May 6, 2025. It is 2:17 p.m. This hearing is being recorded. It is also being live streamed at boston.gov/city-council-tv and broadcast on Xfinity Channel 8, RCN Channel 82, and FiOS Channel 964. The Council's budget review process will encompass a series of public hearings which begin in April and will run through June. We strongly encourage residents to take a moment to engage in this process by giving testimony for the record. You can do this in several ways. 1, attend one of our hearings and give public testimony. We will take public testimony after each panelist's presentation, and also have 2 hearings dedicated to public testimonies. The full hearing schedule is on our website at boston.gov/council-budget. You can give testimony in person, here in the chamber, or virtually via Zoom. For in-person testimony, please come to the chamber and sign up on the sheet near the entrance. It will be taken at the beginning of this hearing following the panelist presentation. Individuals will be called on in order which they signed up and will have 2 minutes to testify. For virtual testimony, you can sign up using our online form on our Council Budget Review website or by emailing the committee at ccc.wm@boston.gov or by emailing Karishma Chauhan at boston.gov. That is KARISHMA.CHOUHAN at boston.gov. You will receive the Zoom link and your name will be added to the list. When you are called to testify, please state your name and affiliation or residence and limit your comments to a few minutes to ensure that all comments and concerns can be heard. The second way, email your written testimony to the committee at ccc.wm@boston.gov. And the third way to testify is to submit a 2-minute video of your testimony through the form on our website. For more information on the City Council budget process and how to testify, please visit the City Council Budget Review budget website at boston.gov/council-budget. Today's hearing is on dockets number 0822 through 0830, the FY26 budget for the Boston Public Library. These matters were sponsored by Mayor Michelle Wu and referred to the committee on April 9, 2025. Today I'm joined by my council colleagues in order of arrival: Council Murphy, Council President Louis Jen, Council Fitzgerald, Council Braden, and the Vice Chair of the committee, Council Pepin. I would now like to turn it over to today's panelists to introduce themselves and to get into their presentation. The floor is now yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is David Leonard. I am the President of the Boston Public Library, and it is my privilege and pleasure to lead this institution even in these unprecedented times. I'm joined on the formal panel today by Chief Financial Officer Emily Tokarczyk and also Jess Elias, who is the Community Learning Supervisor, deputizing for Michael Colford, Director of Library Services, who is unable to be with us today. We have provided the Council with our accomplishments and goals document, along with the budget submission which came through the Mayor's Office of Budget Management. I will have some opening remarks. You have these on a printed version and electronic version of PowerPoint slides, and I will highlight a few points as we go through these, and then happy to take any questions. I understand today's process will include public testimony and then questions and dialogue with councillors. If I could have the slides up, and we'll move to slide number 2. Slide number 2 is the BPL by the number slide, which gives you some quantitative data about our accomplishments for the last year. We are particularly proud of this very strong year. We are showing you in this slide calendar year 2024 numbers being the last full year of data available. That includes 2.3 million visits to our locations across the city. It includes core services such as our circulation numbers, including 1.8 million physical books and items lent in person, as well as 4.8 million e-books or e-content items lent online as well. That is bolstered by an incredible slate of programs, service offerings, and other activities provided by what is I think, one of the strongest staffs in the city in terms of serving our residents across the city. In this year of getting ready for 2026 and Boston 250, many of our rare, valuable, and special collections items also have been on display, and people have been coming in to visit those. We recorded over 8,000 in-person visits to special collections, as well as over 1,600 items added to the collections. One of the biggest accomplishments, next slide please, over 2024 going into 2025 was the completion of the library's new strategic plan, the first full strategic planning process that the library had undergone since 2012. We are still about books, we are still about spaces, we are still about our services, but 4 key roles have emerged as a new way for us to think about our relationship with community. Those are lifelong learning and research partner, community engager, welcoming destination, and trusted resource. And we arranged our accomplishments for the last year, this fiscal year that we're in, 2024 into 2025, under these 4 banners. So a few highlights, and if you would move ahead to the first lifelong learning and research partner slide. This illustrates, for example, over 172,000 children and caregivers who came to our early literacy programs, summer programming that served over 5,600 children and teens, and signals for goals in the year ahead, a new version of an existing program, 1,000 Stories Before Kindergarten, which will be targeted to our youngest readers, getting them ready for their reading experiences. Next slide, please. The adult and research part of this also indicates some of the newer services that we're incredibly proud of. A job search fundamentals program which served 231 patrons, and a record-setting 15,000 participants in our ESOL classes, highlighting the real importance of literacy skills across the board for self-improvement and career readiness. These will continue throughout the next year. Next slide, please. We can go to welcoming destination, which is the area that we locate the conditions of our buildings and our capital plan under. This includes looking at our spaces through disability and accessibility lens, as well as age-strong readiness. Through successive budget years, all of our branch spaces reached opening on Saturdays for the full 9 to 5 day, and we will continue to build on this work as we go forward. I'm sure in the questions we'll have an opportunity to review our active capital projects, the most recent of which was the event yesterday, the groundbreaking for the Fields Corner branch, which demolition has already begun, and this one is well underway. But certainly with this capital budget that is also in front of you, we will be able to continue improving, renovating, and replacing branches, including the Eggleston Square branch, the South End branch, and the three housing with public assets projects, Uplands Corner, Chinatown, and the West End, as well as a number of repair projects and future projects to follow. Moving to trusted resource, we'll skip ahead one more. I just wanted to highlight the work with our most vulnerable populations, which includes a coffee and conversation session at the Central Library run by our social work team, as well as continuing to help close the digital divide with technology kits, Chromebooks, mobile hotspots, and so forth. The demand for that area has continued to increase. As well as projects in part funded by private philanthropy, which include our Books on Band outreach as materials continue to be challenged right across the country, intellectual freedom training for all of our staff, and the expansion of our digital instruction program, beginning to think about the AI needs in that space as well. Moving to community engager, our community learning team under Jess's leadership served over 514 patrons through 28 programs. We're piloting a mobile memory lab in partnership with the Mayor's Office of New Urban Mechanics, which includes the ability to help patrons, residents scan, digitize their own materials. We will continue to build strong partnerships with local organizations right across the city in every neighborhood, offer financial literacy needs programming, as well as additional community history days. The role of our media literacy specialist becomes very, very central as we begin to engage more formally with civic engagement work and an additional range of programs. Digitization of materials from history, most recent history or current, also continues, although in February we did lose a National Endowment for the Humanities grant as a result of changes in the federal priorities in Washington. And so those are just some highlights from our presentation. The FY25 budget for the library that is in front of you, and we have one summary slide on that, records that the appropriated FY25 budget was $49,882,000. The proposed or recommended FY26 budget for the upcoming year is at $49,335,000. We expect our external funding currently to be stable, and that should produce an overall library budget of $61 million and change for the year ahead, as well as what now totals, if you look out over the 5 years of the capital plan, to a $283 million commitment from the city in the mayor's capital budget, which with certain projects now fully funded actually represents a 31% increase over the prior 5-year period. So with that, I will pause my opening comments and we'll hand it back to the chair.
Thank you for your presentation. I want to acknowledge first that we have been joined by Councillor Flynn. Now I'll start with opening questions from my council colleagues, starting with, was it Councillor Murphy? Councillor Murphy, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. I know we were together at the staged groundbreaking. Work has begun, which is great, in Fields Corner. And first, just want to thank all of you, but thank the library staff. I think for forever we'll have to remember back to COVID and all. I know that we're so many years out, but this is my 4th budget, and the last 3 years just realized, how much the staff had to step up and put themselves in many times in situations they may not have wanted to be in. But just want to thank them, knowing that they do amazing work. Our children's librarians, all of the staff that provide so much. And many people will share stories, which you hear all the time. You have a good job, right? The people go to the library for so many needs, right? But so many good reasons. And our libraries do offer so much, if it's photocopying, internet, a warm place, just to be. So knowing that our libraries are like community centers, making sure that we're supporting and funding them in that way is important. And that we're also making sure that the staff, who often have to step in and do more than what their job description states, happens all day, I bet, all the time for them. So just want to make sure that, we're always advocating, and that they know that I support them. And oftentimes, the community rooms, when we look at the most recent renovations or complete build-ups of libraries, what are we focusing on, and what spaces do we want to make sure are in our libraries that may not have been there in the past, right? So those community rooms, I think, say a lot about why people go to the library. So I guess the question would be the South End Library, right? Like, which neighborhoods that like we were saying, how yesterday we had the groundbreaking in Fields Corner. my first year, we were able to do the ribbon cutting at, the Adams Street Library, which is my library, just a block down from where I live. Which projects are the next ones, and which ones, and as an at-large counselor, I do hear like all the different neighborhoods and their needs and wants, and I do think it's important, and I think we are, but if you could speak to really listening to the different needs, right? Chinatown is asking for like different things than say the South End, and how are we listening to the needs of the residents, but also making sure that each library and that investment is going to provide what we know it has to provide, because we can't leave things out that the library needs to, incorporate.
Thank you, Councillor, for your appreciation of the work of our staff, because while I can sit here and talk about the accomplishments at a high level, it is that work, whether it's our librarians or our library support staff, and all of those roles who make it come to life. And in many cases, it is joyful work, but in many cases it is hard work and unexpected work, particularly in these times where many patrons come in all of their fullness with all of the challenges that come with their lives. So thank you for acknowledging that. Moving to the capital question, I am very happy to report that we may have simply the Fields Corner branch in construction, officially now as of yesterday, although we did close and getting ready a couple of months ago. There is much other work that has been happening. So the Eggleston Square branch is a few months away from completing the new design. And the South End branch is almost on a similar pace. Both of them are really moving along the same timeline. In the budget in front of you, you see both of those projects fully funded based upon the knowledge that we have right now about what the costs will be. And so, although we can't maybe start both of them right at the same time, they will proceed apace. Every project, just to refresh all of our understanding, every project goes through a programming study and then a design study. And during each of those formal processes with architects, there are a minimum of 3 to 4 community meetings, which allow us to, with architects present, run by our colleagues at the city's Public Facilities Department, deeply listen to the community. What is the needs? Because while there are some standards that we have that we want to apply across the board, each neighborhood, each staff, each community has its own uniqueness. We saw that just over a year ago with the opening of the Faneuil branch. In my experience now, having done this for several years, there's usually one community meeting at least that's very tense and let's call it challenging for now. But certainly by the time the process completes, we've reached compromise, we've reached agreement, we accommodate as much as we have. And you are correct to point out the importance of the larger community room, but we have also started adding smaller study rooms or meeting rooms as an expansion of that need, which builds upon the core components that we already have. And yes, Chinatown is in design, Upham's Corner is starting design, and West End is about to start design. Those are part of larger projects, those three, where there's a developer leading the overall site development, because each of those projects will be a library with housing above it, or as the Chief of Housing likes to say, a housing development with a library in it, but we'll argue about those details later on.
I'll say a library first. No, both are necessary. And you're right, it was the tree when the first community meeting for the Adams Street Library.
That's
the
right.
Tree, yeah.
That's right.
Yep. Okay, thank you. I look forward to working alongside the community as we go forward with these others, and it is always exciting. I was at the Faneuil branch, library openings are a great community, the Rosendale one also. So we have definitely been investing in, they all have needs, but that's good to hear. I have no other questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Council Murphy. The chair recognizes Council President Louis Jen. Council, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to everyone from the library for being here. President Leonard, it was great to see and to be with you yesterday with my colleagues in Fields Corner. Many of us here are library champions. I don't know where I would be without my library, so they're just such important spaces. We started the conversation yesterday and actually previewed an issue that constituents brought to me when I was had a Beacon Hill cocoa hour, and in other communities. What is the policy, or do we have a policy when we are remodeling or redoing a library on having flex space or an alternative space where people can temporarily use a library in a neighborhood? And is that a policy that we could establish?
We do our very best to continue library services in the community while a branch is closed for renovation. We do not have the ability to bring a complete alternate space online in those communities during construction. Our process is, as we get towards the end of design, we've done this with Fields Corner, we've done this more recently with Faneuil, we've done this with South End, which is a unique situation, is dedicate part of a community meeting to understanding from the residents and our patrons' point of view, which are the most important things to them to try and continue during the closed period. In some cases, it's pop-up programs or a reading group. In other cases, it's just a place to meet and gather. So, for example, I know that in Fields Corner, our staff are doing pop-ups in Chill in the Park and in other establishments in the neighborhood during the closure. Now, I'll be the first to admit that that's not the same as having a full service. Luckily, in the case of Fields Corner, Grove Hall and Adams Street are not really that far away. But our process is to schedule time, and our Director of Neighborhood Services certainly meets with the Friends group as we get closer to a closing to understand what the needs are and what are the options to continue, even on a limited basis, what those services should be.
Has there ever been, so I appreciate pop-ups, and I think those are awesome. Has there ever been a full-time flex space when we've been renovating a library?
There is not. Back in the day, I understand they had a mobile library, a bus basically converted, and that could drive around and be part of communities. Currently, we have a BPL by Bike program, which Jess's team actually manages and runs, and they can visit locations within a neighborhood. They've been diligent about being able to prioritize neighborhoods where a branch is closed. So we certainly have that model to do, but if it's a rainy day like this afternoon, you might not be able to fully activate that particular program. The Chinatown location currently at the China Trade Center building is a temporary location with about 1,500 square foot space, and that's now been operating for I think 5 to 6 years. That was quite a substantial program to bring online. It took us a good 6 months to a year to fully activate that space, as well as the costs incurred. So that's probably the best example of a higher end temporary space, which we would not do for a 1 year or 18-month closure, because by the time it would be fully ready and equipped, we'd be getting closer to reopen the permanent space. But in the case of the West End Beacon Hill community, we will be meeting with them to hear what those needs are and what is, to the best of our ability, our capacity to meet those needs.
Thank you. I appreciate that, because that's where this concern emanated, and I just thought it was a great idea if community member can identify, if we can, probably sounds good in theory, like it's hard to do in practice, especially given if we are taking into consideration how long the library is closed for, but if community has a spot that they've identified and just want to elevate that, this is, something that a few folks in the Beacon Hill Civic Association brought up, and I think it's not going to only be important for them. Like you mentioned, Upham's, Chinatown and West End are currently, and I know you mentioned the current Chinatown option, so just want to thank you for that, and I know that community will be bringing that to you as well. 2 additional questions. One is about the budget for this coming year. I see a significant drop-off in the line item for library administration from $4.3 million to $2.8 and it looks like in a number of categories, there are some either not changing, slight changing, or decreases. Well, how is that what is going to be the biggest impact on library services as a result of those changes?
I'll ask our Chief Financial Officer to respond first to that.
Yeah, and thank you to Jessica and Emily for being here. And then I just wanted to ask my second question is about, there's a lot of advocacy on this council to make sure that our lowest paid workers are paid well, and that includes our workers in our libraries, that includes our children librarians, that includes our custodians, our janitors, ostomy workers. We want to make sure that we are elevating the need always in a city that is a very expensive city to rent, that we're doing everything we can to make sure that our lowest paid workers all around our city are paid a living wage and a fair wage.
Just to touch on your first question, Counselor, part of this is due to a restructuring that we began about 2 years ago. So I think we started off with 3 organizations within the library, and we started to break out. We now have 5. So originally, the library administration role included a lot of the facility operations costs as well as the book costs as well. So we've broken those out over the past couple of years, if that's what you're looking at here.
Yes, I'm wondering what is going to take the biggest challenge in this fiscal year for the library, given the change in funds that are allocated to the library.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that the guidance was to target a maintenance level budget. Like, can we continue to do everything next year that we have done this year without incurring additional costs, or removing, in fact, as you have pointed out, some one-time costs that were in last year's budget. So that is a partial explanation for some of the decreases, aside from the reorganization of the budget ledger sections. However, there are a couple of areas where we will continue to work with the Budget Office on mid-year adjustments that might be needed in the event that certain areas are being underfunded on day one. So for our proposal, it really requires that we don't lose any active vacancies. Ones we haven't filled from 2 years ago, that's fair game. But I am concerned that we're starting out with a challenge around some of our contracts and some of our collections budget.
Okay, and I'll just announce what my concern is. Like, obviously, we are looking to further activate our libraries and to increase programs, so I would hate to see a hit to program income as a result of these budget challenges, if there are vacancies that we're not able to fill. So I'd love, my time is up, but I'd love to, as we go, to hear from you about what those challenges may be, especially as it may be, as we may hear from our residents about things that they're no longer able to find at their libraries. I want to be prepared for that and want to know if there's anything that we should be thinking about in this amendment process to make sure that we're guarding against that from happening.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Council President Louis Jen. The Chair recognizes Council Fitzgerald. Council, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you all for being here again. It was great spending time with everybody yesterday at the Fields Corner Civic in District 3. Opening of the library, or the groundbreaking, if you will. It was a great day, despite the weather. I'm really here to say thank you for your investment in District 3. We have Adams Village, which is right at the top of my own street. You'll like this story. I actually had a time right after we did the groundbreaking at Fields Corner. I had an hour before my next thing. I said, well, I should probably go home and see my kids, right, and say hello. I get to the house, and no one's home, and it's 5:30. And so I'm calling my wife, and I said, where are you guys? School's out at 4. Where have you guys been for the past hour and a half? I came home to see everyone. She said, we're up at the library. That's where they hang out after school. So I mean, it just sort of like reinvigorated all yep, that's why they're there. That's what they're for, and that's where you want your kids to be. So between that, the new Adams, the groundbreaking on Fields Corner, the future public-private with Upham's, and I know Lower Mills is in a good spot and had some refurbishing done about 6 years ago, as we were discussing. We're in really good shape, and I think it shows in the district. I would like to push the South End Library again. It's not technically in my district, but a lot of the folks that I represent down there, would like to see that pushed, and so I will continue to advocate for that. So and I appreciate you guys having that in mind as you're expanding it and putting the investment in. The only question I have is, I believe that there's a flag is supposed to fly at each of the libraries. Is that true? Am I correct in that understanding that?
I would have to check on traditional policy on that. So we have certainly regarded that the Central Library is the main location, and that is where we're fully obliged to fly the U.S. flag. Over time, some locations have had U.S. flags, but not all. So I'd have to check on that in the
If you
policy.
could, it would be great. I'd love to just advocate for, because I know that there isn't one at the Adams Street Library, and some folks have come up to me and asked about that, and I guess it warrants maybe a citywide look. Is this what it's supposed to be, or is that just? But that's really the only small ask I have. Again, really appreciate all you guys have done and the work you're doing, and especially there's probably many constituents there, but Pamela Carver as well, I'd love to give a special shout out to as well, because she does a great job, and she lives nearby. So thank you, and that's all, Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Fitzgerald. The chair recognizes Councilor Braden. Councilor, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for being here. I had a question just in terms of hiring and replacement and retention. I have this general question that I'm asking everyone that we're doing this budget process. How many vacant positions do you have at the moment, and are you having similar challenges with recruitment and retention of staff? And then also, we find that, or we hear that the hiring process is a little cumbersome in terms of if you see a good candidate, how difficult it is to get them actually on the payroll. And I'm looking at a report from, it must 10 years ago, 2014, by Chrysalis Management. They did a study on hiring and retention, and the BPL specifically, and said that the BPL library consumes an excessive amount of time and resources, and the practice negatively impacts the ability of the library to deliver quality services. So I'm just wondering, is that situation improved any from 10 years ago, or what challenges have you got in terms of, and also reimbursing and rewarding all of our staff except the library assistants, etc.?
Thank you for that very important question. And you've given me a flashback to that report from 2014, 2015. But seriously, so the current number of active vacancies is 38 that we are trying to actually fill today. There's a small number more than that are on hold for review. I believe in the budget report, Emily has a number that matches pretty closely to that, plus or minus one or two. There are 10 in union negotiations, 10 in the interviewing and approval process, and a number of part-time positions as well. When you compare 2014 to maybe 2019, the year before the COVID pandemic, and then I think we have to do a reset between COVID, post-COVID, and today. We had, coming out of the COVID era, core COVID, because the virus still exists, a high of 90 vacancies across the system. And so over the last 2 years, we've been driving that down. It is my opinion, my sense, having paid attention to the numbers now for over 10 years, that our active vacancy list probably should be around the 30 mark. 30 to 40 is probably okay. Below 30 would be really good in terms of the hiring challenge. We literally just went down below 40 for the first time since before the pandemic. Now we have to keep it there, and we have to drive it a little bit harder. And there are a number of factors involved. It includes some bureaucracy. I think that is a true statement. It includes the challenge of hiring more broadly in a challenging economic climate, whether that's the cost of living and the residency requirement and other challenges. It, on average, takes us at least 3 to 6 months to complete a hire. And our Director of Neighborhood Services was sharing with me this morning that we have filled the teen librarian position in East Boston, which has been vacant for 2 years. So there are outliers as well as trends. As I stated in my opening comments, it is all about the staff that brings the library to life within these wonderful buildings. So we must keep our eyes on making this better. And I do know that our colleagues in the Office of People Management and Budget at the city have made some procedural improvements in how to optimize that, but we must continue asking for more.
Yeah, I'm just reading from the report that said that, you request a position to post a replacement or a new position, and it's sent to the Personnel Review Committee for approval, and then they get the approval and it goes back to you folks and the candidate's information. So you select somebody, and then it must be sent back to the Personnel Review Committee for a final review and approval before a final and fully approved offer can be made. So I see why it takes 6 months. We'll be bringing this up probably, and you lose a lot of good people because that takes a long time.
In a competitive landscape, if someone has another offer at the same time, then they're not going to wait for that length of time.
So, okay. Oh, in terms of the staff that you already have, who may be already resident in the city, do you have sort of like a pipeline for career development so that they can maybe come in as a library assistant and work their way up?
We have some incredible examples of staff making their way mostly on their own recognizance up the ladder and through the system, and we want to be even more supportive of that. I didn't have time in my opening highlights to talk about the internal organizational improvements that our strategic plan calls us on, but it specifically highlights developing our staff and improving the staff culture as part of that equation, which I believe on both counts will help with longer term retention also.
I had another question about the trustees of the public library. We've got a wonderful, historic, first in the nation public library in Boston, established in 1848, and the trustees, I understand from just looking at the money that's in trust, there's 400, across the city there's 400 trust funds, and the library has 190 of them, so you're pretty well up there. Is there, some of these trust funds date back to Victorian times. How do you manage those? Are there some of them with very small amounts of money? What's the process for if some of them almost becomes? Is it an administrative burden to manage those? And what's the process for distributing making a distribution from the funds?
Sure. Emily, would you like to take the investment management side of that?
Sure. So we do work with an investment manager that will meet with our board multiple times a year to get a status check. We have policies on different types of investments and the ratios that we want to keep our trust funds in the different forms of investment. But annually there is a distribution that comes from the trust funds. Many of them are highly restricted. Some it could be you can only spend this on Joan of Arc collections, or it can only be for children's books at the East Boston branch. I think 80% have really restrictive purchasing requirements for them.
If you have a restrictive trust fund that's restricted to a library that doesn't exist anymore, how do you handle that situation?
It would be something where we would look through the paperwork itself that the trust fund was set up for, and then working with the Attorney General and the legal team.
And how much do you draw down every year?
Excuse me?
How much are you required to or limited to draw down? What's the process for drawing down funds?
It's a 5% distribution. That's an average over 3 years. So if there is some volatility within the market, we're able to distribute that a little bit more evenly.
There is more detail in the budget book, specifically around external funds, part of which is the trust fund income that Emily has just referred to.
Very good. I appreciate my time's up, so thank you. I have to dash out for another meeting, but I might be back. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Braden. Just want to acknowledge that Councillor Weber has joined us. Now I'll go to the Vice Chair of the committee, Councillor Pepin. Councillor, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you all so much for the amazing work that you do, and thank you for being panelists here today. Very lucky to have such amazing institutions in my district, 3 amazing libraries that are used every single day by my residents. They continue to get praise just because of the type of resources that they are. It's not just a place to go read a book or use a computer. It's a gathering space. It's a place where, I mean, Councilor Worrell and I literally did a budget listening session in Mattapan and in the community room at the Mattapan Library. I was with Rosinell's for Everyone at the Rosinell Library's community room. It's just continuously a great resource. So thank you for providing that. My office has been in touch with some residents that are actually interested in exploring the idea of bringing social workers to the libraries. So that's something that I wanted to flag for you all. Maybe that's an idea that we play around with the Boston Public Health Commission, just to allow residents to get support from a social worker or a mental health counselor at a library. Usually they have like private meeting rooms. So is there anything that you guys have been working on? Is this an idea, or is this a new idea that you haven't heard of?
We actually already offer this program, and we are in the process of growing it. So for about a year in the 2022-23 timeframe, we hired our first social worker onto the library staff. We were able to, through a combination of swapping out a vacancy and utilizing some philanthropically raised funds, support this program. That individual did leave, but has now come back to us in a management position, and we are in the process of adding one of those 38 vacancies, I believe, is actually our line social worker. We also have grown out our relationship with Simmons School of Social Work and leveraged the intern program there. What we have discovered is that while we have focused on Central and a couple of key branches, these needs actually exist system-wide and city-wide. This team actually works for Jess in community learning, so I'll ask her to add a little color, but I know your time is short for questions. But we would love to engage with you around the three branches in your district. Indeed, the Commissioner for Public Health actually mentioned this morning to me, that we could collaborate even more around this program.
Yeah, it's definitely something that has a lot of appetite in my neighborhoods, where folks, since it's so sometimes far away from central Boston or like downtown Boston, they go to the libraries for a lot of services. So even if it's like on a rotating basis where they're not stagnant at one library, that'd be great. But I'd love to connect with you in your office. And maybe we could touch base offline about this, about strategic planning in my district. Another thing that I wanted to bring up to you all is timing and the amount, how late your libraries stay or do not stay open to. I was at the Hyde Park Branch Library doing like a coffee hour there, and one of the residents was a college student, and they were there, but they were mentioning that they would love to study at the library after like in the evening hours, but I think it's only Thursdays that they're open until 8 p.m.
Each branch has one evening currently that they're open till 8 p.m.
Okay, so I was wondering, I know it's a staffing issue, and I know it's budgeting issues, but if there's ever a way to add an additional night, an additional evening to these branches, that would be something that I know the residents would appreciate. I know that, again, there's limits to this, but something to consider. There's an appetite for that too.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that as a need. It is a function of staffing capacity and staff ability to work a second night in some cases, or perhaps even more, or different schedules. Post-COVID, we believed it was most important to bring back Saturday hours and Sunday hours at Central. So over the course of the last year, we got to that milestone. We're happy about that. I think we would like to keep under consideration the ability of future expansion, but we know that there are likely economic times, harder times ahead. So I don't know that we would have additional budget wherewithal to do that, but we do recognize the need and the desire.
Well, that's good. And shout out to you all, actually, because I was at the Copley Branch Library during the Greek parade, and I went into the library to just spend some time beforehand, get warm, and it was packed. That library was packed on a Sunday. So it was beautiful to see our library just be used like that it was like 10:30 on a Sunday. So it was very nice.
If you haven't gotten your seat on some Sundays by 11 a.m., you're going to be out of luck for a while. So it is literally that busy.
That's good. No, that's really good. And the last thing I do want to say is that the Mattapan Branch Library just turned 16 years old. They had a Sweet 16 celebration, and it was beautiful. We just got word yesterday from Chief Irish that a street occupancy permit has been given to fix the wall on the exterior of the library, so that's very good news. Now residents want to know about the statue. I feel like there's a statue or a monument that's supposed to go inside the library that was part of their original plan, and since it was a sweet 16th birthday, it brought them the question of when will that be done. So
yeah, this was a project that got stalled multiple times. We're in active discussion with the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture, who's here somewhere there, specifically on how to ensure that is not stalling again. And there is a design, and really what's required is moving it to the project management stage, which requires specialist capacity, and then fabrication. Times have changed over the 16 years, and so there will likely be a budget request to someone to fully fund that project once it's been recosted. But both the library and the Office of Arts and Culture want nothing more than to see that project materialize and happen, even if it is 16 years late.
yeah, no, that's beautiful, and I know that the residents would appreciate that. So to whoever is in charge of that budget, I want to make sure that they're hearing from me that we would like to see that happen. And yeah,
Thank you.
but that's it for me, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Councilor Flynn. Councilor, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to the public library team that is here, and the important work that you do. I wasn't at the Fields Corner celebration, but I did support it in the budget many times for funding, so congratulations on that wonderful accomplishment. I continue to go by the temporary library in Chinatown. I love going by there to thank the dedicated workers in that library, and they really bring out the best in the library system, but also their interaction with the residents as well as exceptional. What is the latest, David, on Chinatown Library? I know we're making significant progress, but give us an update, please.
So the Chinatown Library, the permanent library, which would be the first time that community will have its permanent library restored since 1953, is part of the housing development being managed by Asian Community Development Corporation on Tyler Street. That project is finalizing its design and plans to have shovels in the ground this summer, all going well. And we will make an announcement with them when they're ready to commit to the date. That will be a great celebration because, as we learned yesterday, when you're doing the groundbreaking, it's really real when that happens. So we very much look forward to that date getting confirmed. The interior design for the new library, which will be incredible. We just had the most recent community meeting. We were both at that together, and design is progressing across the finish line so that we can build out once they give us the green light within the overall development.
Thank you. David, could I ask on the groundbreaking for the Chinatown Library, Wednesday, I'm here for a weekly meeting. Could they not schedule it on a Wednesday?
Not a Wednesday.
Not a Wednesday. Sometimes things happen on Wednesdays when I'm here, when there's a groundbreaking in my district. So just wanted to respectfully ask that.
We will relay that information.
David, how are we doing on the South End Library? That's been ongoing for a period of time. residents certainly continue to ask us. They're engaged. We're making progress. Give us an update, please.
Yes, we're reaching the final stages of design for the new branch, targeting the next community meeting the end of this month. We do have to do a landmarks historic review process, part of that process. I'm pleased to share that the full costs of the branch are in the capital budget in front of you, which is spread over multiple years, but that allows us to move forward as soon as design is complete. So we're hoping not to have to delay anything there, and our hope was that the full amount was in, and it is in. So that's the good news on that front.
Excellent. The South End, Chinatown, South Boston Library. I'm actually having a budget listening session tonight in South Boston. Can you take a guess where that's going to be at tonight, David?
Would that be at this branch library,
You got it
perhaps?
right. You got it right. And you know what one of the questions they're going to ask me tonight is?
What is the status of a programming study for the capital budget of
Exactly.
the South Boston branch?
Exactly. David, how do we get that into the budget in a meaningful and significant way? It's probably one of the oldest library branches in the system, and residents have waited patiently, but also advocated respectfully. But they do want to see a new library like so many other neighborhoods have across the city. I know there's a wonderful courtyard outside that you and I have been at many times, and especially in the summertime, my wife loves going back into the courtyard to read with her friends. But do you think there's an opportunity for us to get money in this budget? Is it too late for your advocacy to get the South Boston Public Library up and running into the next phase?
So I am pleased to see that the programming study remains in the 5-year capital plan. I was concerned that this next batch of branches might not be in, but both the North End, Codman Square, and South Boston all remain in the out years in the budget, so that's the good news. There is a factor of capacity, both from the capital budget, from the Public Facilities Department, and from the library staff to tackle only so many projects at once. And so I can report that the South Boston branch is one of the 3 to be in this next phase. But beyond that, I really don't have the ability to make further commitments.
Okay, I understand. Thank you. Hey, David, one other question. I know you and I have talked many times about this, about Chinatown Library, and I know it's going to be a tremendous asset to the community, including the housing for residents. But can you give me an idea, or could your team give me an idea of some of the programs that might be included that would be welcoming to the Chinese community, to the community that speaks Cantonese fluently, because I know they've also waited patiently, and I want to make sure, and I know you do as well, but I want to make sure that the residents that speak Cantonese and don't speak English also are welcome there, and whether it's through books or through other type of activities.
Yeah, it's probably one of the prime examples of a neighborhood where multilingual capacity is necessary, and that must exist in the collections work that we select. It must exist in the capabilities of the staff, which we support. Mm-hmm. And the other area where I think there is room for growth system-wide is ensuring that in our choice of partners, we are selecting a mixture of partners that should include capacity in the languages spoken by the communities represented in those neighborhoods. I know the team understands that, And as we get ultimately closer to fully staffing out the new library and bringing it online, that will be taken up in greater detail. Jess?
Yeah, thank you for the question. And it's just an honor to be here to speak on behalf of our services. And I just want to note it's also an honor to lead a team of 20. My team does a lot with our services for more traditionally underserved populations with ESOL, workforce, and digital literacy, as well as other areas from adult basic education to citizenship initiatives. Councillor Flynn, I'm proud to say that starting in the fall, with our team of 4 ESOL instructors, we're going to be holding ESL classes, specifically in the Chinatown branch, for beginner-ish level. And as David mentioned earlier, one of their big other priorities is working with targeted partnerships. So in the past, we've worked with the Boston Chinatown Neighborhood Center to help work with some of their students. Again, the language issue is always there, but we really try to help make sure that we're getting to the goals of everybody that needs, from referrals to our tech classes to one-on-one reviews for basic rewriting a paper, and many more of our workforce areas of service. So that is a branch starting in the fall that we're going to be bringing more of our services directly there, because we know very much that there is a need and an impact there too. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, do I have time for one follow-up question?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that response. Thank you for the incredible work. Just as a response, for the seniors in Chinatown that speak Cantonese, and I have 2 assistants on my staff that speak Cantonese and Mandarin fluently, but for seniors that speak Cantonese only, and they may not have any formal education, or they may not be able to read or write at times. But how important is it for basic instructions on reading or basic instructions on how to work within the library system if you've never had that type of education or experience? But I guess my question, are you able to work with an older group of people that have limited education but limited or no English, and are you able to help them really navigate and get engaged in the system?
Yeah, thank you. It is always a bit of a challenge. While we do have a number of folks on our team who speak Spanish, Portuguese, French, Mandarin Chinese is definitely something where we would love to have more resources for that. But how we do so in practice is really by a group effort. So we've had a number of people, for example, come with little to no English skills, but if they have an advocate, a family member, a friend, or partner, and we use the tools that we have available, from the language translation assistance to even just simply Google, and just slowly but surely trying to make sure that we were able to help as best we can. One of our locations that are one of our ESL instructors is at the Connolly Branch Library. Most of his students are not only so beginner to English, but actually it's the first time they were participated in a traditional class.
Right.
So his first couple of weeks were just raise your hand to have a question, just those little steps. So it's an enormous challenge, but we do everything possible we can to help serve, and we're immensely also grateful to the staff there at that branch who can help with some of the translation. And then going back to some of our partners that we utilize, that's something with my team, especially in the future, looking towards for the translation need is particularly vital.
Well, thank you for that response. Thank you for what you're doing, and a special thank you to the Chinatown Library team that really goes out of their way to help everybody that goes to the library, including a lot of young families throughout the downtown area, but also a lot of families from Chinatown and non-English speaking residents as well. Thank you very much. Mr. Chair, thank you for giving me an extra couple minutes.
Thank you, Councilor Flynn. The chair recognizes Councilor Weber. Councilor, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We're talking about the Connolly Library in JP. It's my library. So my question was about English language learners in general.
Yeah.
I guess, what type of systemic programming do we have or, at your level where we're reaching out to those communities and providing space, across the city for them, regardless of which language they speak or they're fluent in? So, I don't know.
Yeah, thank you. So we are one of the only free year-round opportunities for literacy and ESOL programming in the city of Boston. For some time, when you would do a Google search for English classes, Boston, the Boston Public Library was one of the first searches to come up. So we offer, and we're really proud to offer, a diverse range of opportunities for people learning English. We do traditional classes that serve multiple levels of learning, and so that is for those, again, who have little to no English experience, those who have lived in Boston all of their life and now are just starting to learn, as well as those who are visiting and may be a little bit more fluent in English, but are trying to kind of understand and adapt to culture here in Boston, as well as for initiatives for the workplace. We also are really proud in mentioning our diverse range. We also do things like civic walking tours, which explore the art and culture of Boston's vibrant spaces. English for the workplace classes, which is a particularly key area of interest for us, especially working towards helping to make sure that our curriculum and our classes and what we do help really give people the best chance for success in the workplace. And we even sing. We had a concert this past Saturday at the Central Library in Copley Square with our Back Bay Chorale, and about 60 participants came. So these programs are attended by an amazing range of persons representing all ages, life experiences, and countries of origin. We do not require any form of identification or proof of residency to come to these classes and obtain library service. And so we really are extremely dedicated with a team of 4 on staff, as well as a range of volunteers. The classes and topics range from traditional grammar, reading, writing, but often touch on topics like local news, culture, holidays, themes, and much more. We are, the demand is always there. And so we really try to reach very targeted locations. Connolly certainly one. We're really excited to also expand to additional classes at Grove Hall, as well as Chinatown. And also we do quite a bit to help on the virtual side. We're trying to do a bit more of that, especially for parents and caretakers for whom the hours may not work as well. And then we also spend the time for those who need a little additional one-on-one assistance. So for the classes and groups, the staff are happy to stay later from everything from reviewing a resume, a cover letter, to just some general questions. So it's really critical.
Yeah, and I guess at the branches, is there any staffing? Do you try to have staff that speak languages in the community, or how does that work? I mean, is there some approach to that where you're making sure that happens?
Yeah, so I'm happy to say that all of the staff on the ESL side speak at least one language other than English, so from Spanish, Portuguese, Italian, and some other ones as well. And so we really try to, then when we look at where to place the staff, to help make sure that if we have, for example, at Connolly, a high level of Spanish speakers, that our instructor can help with that too. But we really try to work with all different levels, and we're currently trying to expand to more languages that we can offer.
Our point of departure for guidance is both the languages spoken in the Boston Public School system, which is vast, as well as the BPDA, now the planning department's demographic analysis of what's needed at most in which neighborhoods. And with a variety of positions, we will advertise what is preferred, both at the librarian level and the library assistant level.
Okay. And then over the last few years, it looks like the budget's slightly increased, but there's a lot of movement between library administration and library services. Can you just explain, what's the significance of, it looks like money has come, basically library administration has gone from 24 million to 4, but library services has gone from 0 to 13, and library operations from 0 to 15. So What's the significance of that?
Sure, no, thank you. This is what I thought I was answering before. I apologize. Over the past couple of fiscal years, we've tried to break out and have additional organizational structure here so that it more accurately represents how the library is spending the money. So if you go back 3 or 4 years, the administration level was extremely high. What that really captures now is HR, communications, like back of house services, where we're able to pull out, collection development and tech services, pull out the books, pull out the operations of facilities team as well into their own organizational structure, so we can better represent how the library is spending its money.
Okay. And then for Eggleston Square, we're in the design phase. What's the plan for how long that library is going to be not unused? And then Councilor, Madam President, Louis Jen asked about flex space, and is there a plan in place for that?
Yeah, so we're at the last stages of design for Eggleston Square right now, so that will complete. We'll do bidding to get final costs and estimates, and then proceed into construction after we have a GC on board, general contractor on board. We're seeing between 12 to 18 months as the best case scenario for build. This will be new build on the existing site, similar to the Fields Corner branch, and explaining earlier that during this period, right now, actually, our head of neighborhood services branches is in conversation with the Friends group about which of the programs and services are most needed by that community, so we can, as I said earlier, again, prioritize those on a temporary basis, knowing that we do not have full flex space to spin up a full temporary branch during a closure. In the case of Eggleston Square, at least for some neighbors, should they choose, Connolly and Grove Hall are not that far away, but we know that's a burden for some people to travel even beyond their immediate neighbors.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Council Weber. Thank you again for being here, and thank you for all your work that you do. And thank you to my colleagues for all their questions. I don't have to tell you how essential, your work is here in the city of Boston. The libraries are not just hub for education, but access to vital services. And I know that last year you spoke on how your community services were going through Central Support Desk, and how you were delivering services to unhoused patrons and residents. Can you talk to me more about how that's going this year and an update on it?
So I think the need remains incredibly strong. Building out the social work team in particular has been a very important component of that work. We maintain strong partnerships with in other organizations such as Pine Street Inn, Boston Healthcare for the Homeless, Women's Lunch Place, Break Time, and others, because there is still a handoff point where there are specialist organizations that really ought to be the ones at the forefront of helping them. So in some ways we can be the intercept point, we can be the safe space, but it's a referral, honestly, that is the best thing to get someone on their way. But that is the business of librarianship for all of our staff, is to understand what someone needs or wants, give them the information that they need, and ensure that they're supported on their journey.
Awesome. And I know last year you also mentioned you were able to hire 2 new bilingual literacy instructors. Can you speak to how these roles have contributed to the operations? And then are we planning on hiring and training more bilingual literacy expert instructors?
I think we might have one more to go. I'll let Jess talk about that team.
Yeah, thank you. So we were so pleased with the addition of the 2 bilingual ESOL instructors. Since last year, we had, as David had in the slides, about 15,000 instances of attendance, record numbers. And I can say since the beginning of fiscal year 25, we've held 1,103 classes and conversation groups, and our current recorded attendance is close to 13,000. So with the addition of having the 2, especially with the language needs, it really helps. People come to our classes and conversations sometimes because out of just what they're facing, which is maybe very difficult. In the past, we had refugees come from Ukraine and Afghanistan. They were told in the airport to come to our libraries. And so the staff we have, whether they're able to speak the language fluently or not, are able to offer a safe space, understand the goals, and work with them in your small spaces just to connect with the community, connect with our partners, and engage in some classes that are pretty fun and engaging, but also really vital to help them on their way for success. We have so many success stories, which is just fantastic. Sometimes our instructors get an email saying, you know, Mr. Clancy, I'm unable to come to your classes, I got a job. Or I'm able to I got enrolled into a college or other educational program. But it really means that, again, with such a demand there, we're able to serve more. We'd love to be able to do even more, because we know that while we have open enrollment with our classes, there are also space capacity as well too. So we try with our instructors as well as our dedicated team of volunteers to offer some opportunity, whether that is through conversation groups or the traditional classes, and get people on their way to the next level of goals, as well as into other organizations. I also will say, too, that these also come with the referrals for the wraparound services to make sure that people have the supports they need, whether it's assistance with their immigration case, referrals to other housing organizations, and just much more. So it's been a tremendous add, and we're looking forward to kind of continuing serving this population more as we go.
That's great work. I haven't got into, well, I have maybe 1 or 2 ebooks, but it sounds like it's a growing demand for BPL. Can you put a number on, you know, what it would look like in order to meet this demand? But then also, outside of the budgetary means, what support would BPL need in order to meet this growing demand for ebooks?
Yeah, Emily has some detail on this to share. I think this is an area where we are unable to meet demand right now. And what's interesting about the numbers from this last year is that while print circulation is growing, which is good, right, and maybe a surprise, but the demand for ebooks is growing. And the cost of supporting that mixture is particularly difficult.
No, thank you, Counselor. So looking at the past year, about 47% of our materials budget goes toward ebooks and digital materials. So our team is responding to that demand for the material. The thing that gets a little tricky, it is much less expensive for us to purchase a book than it is to purchase an ebook, because you're actually paying for the number of, we don't call them checkouts, we call them CIRC for the ebook. So maybe it services 10 people or 50 people, we're paying for the circulation of the ebook rather than just one printed material.
That goes around. Wow.
So and unfortunately, there's something not in our favor with the business model. Right. We are collaborating with some of our electeds at the State House around trying to ensure that there is legislation that is more favorable to libraries, so that within a constrained budget, we are actually able to service as much as possible, as opposed to, well, we're paying to rent an ebook that we then lend out to a patron, as opposed to one that we have until it's worn out.
Right. Can you elaborate on the roles and responsibilities of your new EDI manager?
Sure. This person started earlier this year in the role and brings a wealth of experience in the entirety of the breadth of equity, diversity, and inclusion. During these times, BPL believes this is a highly important area to continue to signal as being important. This is as much an internal focused resource as helping our staff with their offerings to the public. And we want to ensure that when it comes to whether it's race or gender or LGBTQIA plus identities more broadly, or any intersectionality, that the library is a supportive place and one where both for staff and the public we are inclusive, we are welcoming, and that we appreciate that a more diverse staff and a more diverse community is simply a richer human experience.
No, thank you for that work. Very important work. I want to read Councilor Mejia's letter of absence, and we also have received a letter of absence from Councilor Santana. And what I'll do, I'll just read this into the record, and you can respond to it or respond in writing to these questions. Dear Chair Worrell and colleagues, I regret to inform you that I will not be in attendance at today's Ways and Means hearing on Boston Public Library Arts and Culture Revolving Funds. I've been called for jury duty and required and grateful to fulfill this civic obligation. That said, I would be grateful to have my questions directed towards the BPL below be reflected on the record. Question 1 is, the library administration's budget had declined significantly from $24.7 million in FY23 to a projected $2.8 million in FY26. Even between FY25 and FY26, there's another drop. How should we expect this trend to impact the FY27 budget? Are there structural reductions we should anticipate, or is this a temporary dip? The second question is, in FY24, overtime expenditures reached nearly $1 million, yet the appropriation for both FY25 and FY26 is just $325,000. Current year to date, as of March 31st, 2025, data shows a $233,000 deficit in overtime. How realistic is the $325,000 figure for FY26, and to what extent will the $860,000 increase in funding for permanent employees reduce reliance on overtime hours? The third question is, why does the projected number of library users drop from 17,300 in FY27 to 14,705 in FY26? Fourth question is, how does the library spend each year? How much does the library spend each year on printing out physical cards? The fifth question is, the contractual services line in the operating budget is decreasing by over $1 million from FY25 to FY26. Can you explain this decrease? The sixth question, we heard yesterday in community meeting with District 3 residents that the reopening of the South End Library is very important to them. I think she means Fields Corner Library, right? No, South End still? Okay. Are there any updates you are able to provide about progress on this? And is there anything the city is doing to fill the gap caused by the library being closed? When can we expect to move from the design phase to the construction? And the last question is, please provide the most up-to-date information regarding Fields Corner Library. I wish to extend my gratitude to the Boston Public Library and Austin Cultural leadership who showed up today, and look forward to further conversations on these matters upon my return to City Hall. Thank you for your attention to this. Best regards, Julia Mejia, Boston City Council at large.
I think we've addressed several of those questions during questions from other councillors. If there's a particular one that you'd like us to address live, otherwise I would take those under advisement to respond to in writing.
Yes, we can respond to them in writing. Thank you. I would like to now go to public testimony. If you can testify either in person or via Zoom. If you'd like to testify virtually, please sign up in advance using the link below. After you have signed up, you'll be provided with the hearing's Zoom link. Please make sure you are signed into Zoom with the full name you signed up with to help us call on you appropriately. If you would like to testify in person, please sign up on the sheet near the entrance, and your name will be called in the order in which you signed up. Please step forward and introduce yourself into the microphone, and people who are testifying will have 2 minutes to testify. We'll start with Yvette Giroux, and then followed by Elisa Cadilla. You could go to either microphone. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, councilors, for the opportunity to give public testimony. Thank you, attendees, for listening. And I'd like to introduce myself, Yvette Jarreau. I'm the president of the Friends of the South End Library, so I'm here representing that board and the community. I wanted to provide a little information, background about the South End Library situation. But primarily, my reason for being here is to ask the City Council to support wholeheartedly the $30+ million that's in the capital budget for next year, 26, year ending 26, because we are expecting to move into, from design phase into construction, hopefully by the end of this year. We'll be in the construction phase, so the money needs to be there for this coming fiscal year. So that's really my biggest reason why I'm here. And I wanted to share a little background. So due to the circumstances that have happened in the last several years, the South End Library branch has been closed for almost 5 years between the refresh that happened in the fall of 2019, then COVID, and then the flood, which shut us down in 22. So the impact on the community has been huge. There's a whole cohort of kids, and we have a lot of kids in the South End, that have had no branch library experience. And there's seniors there who have expressed their concern that maybe they won't be around to see the new library and to use it. So it's having a huge impact, as I'm sure you guys all know. I just wanted to bring that up. So it's just crucial that you guys vote for the money that's allocated in the budget coming up for this next fiscal year. And we want to make sure that there are no slips, that we don't delay because we don't have the authorization. So thank you so much for your support, and I'm excited about the new library plans. So thank you, library, for all that you do to help us get this back on shape. Thank you.
Thank you. Alyssa?
My name is Alyssa Cadillac. I'm president of AFSCME Local 1526. The hardworking AFSCME members who identify as BPL staff and equal to everyone else, not like Mr. President Leonard identified us as support staff. We are the backbone of the library. We're the ones that show up. We're the ones that publicly serve. We're the ones who connect our branches by delivering materials across the system. We appreciate certainly the comments by our counselors in our support, and you have always shown up to support us, always, across the board, every time we've asked, and you've done so again today. As a reminder, not all our staff want to become librarians. We have IT, we have specialists in preservation, we have a wide variety of educational, and so it is not just about becoming a librarian. It is not just about getting an MLS. It is much, much more than that. And I know many of you know that. You work with our staff every day in many different ways. This budget doesn't support staffing capacity and changes. We all do this and have been doing this for many years, some of us, because we love our communities, we love the services we provide. But I also want to remind you that our staff are also family members. They're caregivers. They are also working 2 or more jobs or going to school themselves. And so to ask them to give up more of their time away from their families is something that we truly can't support at this time. I also want to just take a moment to talk about where we are and not getting into bargaining. You know, this is not the forum for that. But I do help represent the lowest paid members, and it is extremely frustrating to hear that we hired three high-level managers in the past year, and my lowest paid employees are told no. They're, again, the ones, they show up every single day. That when you look at the budget and you look at what we have across the system, that the 8% of positions, let me just to make sure I have that right, in terms of thinking of what that looks like, that we have, I believe, 8% in management make over 15% in the budget. 15% of the budget. But again, my lowest paid members who have to live in the city of Boston are told, we don't have money for you, but we want you to work more hours, but we want you to do more. We want you to commit more to this strategic plan that we don't have resources for, and we don't have the professional development budget for. So I ask that the city councilors look closely at what we are funding and who we're funding. 5 facilities managers, 5 managers in the HR department, most of which is centralized. Some of the managers, absolutely. Social worker manager, great ad. Helping our members every single day. But it does seem like we have a lot at the top, and not so much in terms of our custodians who can't keep our buildings clean. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I just want to thank everyone who came out and lent their voice to this conversation. I will now return to my council colleagues for a second round of questions, starting with Council President Louis Jen. Council, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I want to thank Yvette for coming out and speaking on behalf of the South End Library. Thank you, and I want to thank you, Elisa, for elevating the needs of our lowest paid employees and for writing to us on the council about that. I can assure you that this is a body that cares deeply about our lowest paid workers, and we've been working very closely with the administration about how we lift up the wages of our lowest paid workers. Both we try to do that through contracts, but other ways that we can do that is something that I uplifted when I initially spoke, and just directly again speaking to you, President Leonard, that knowing that this is something that we care about deeply on the council, because it's an expensive city. We require people to live here, and we need to, the best way to show people that you respect them and that we honor their dignity is through their paycheck. And so I just want to thank all of the people who make our libraries possible. I'll say this until I have no more, not able to speak anymore. The Lower Mills Public Library played such a crucial role in my life, right? Parents new to this country, those librarians and all of the staff there were the people who cared for us. And we often have difficult trade-offs to make as a city, but making sure that our employees are able to live with a living wage is one of them. And so I just ask through the contract process, through other means, that we are doing everything we can to support our janitors, and all of our staff in our buildings.
Yeah, there's no question in my mind, regardless of what your words I may have chosen earlier, that all of our staff are essential to the work of the library. We do fund professional development and other opportunities, actually with non-city funding, with trustee funds that we discussed a little bit earlier. I would actually like to see that grow, and the upcoming strategic plan actually looks for greater investment in that, despite the economic times that we may be facing down. We're obviously, again, I agree, we're not going to do bargaining here or get into that, right. But we are really hoping that the library, the city, and our union partners will reach agreement, which will begin to address some of those concerns that we've alluded to. We need nothing more than that, and should that not go far enough, I believe we want to collaborate on other means to continue to uplift the concerns that exist.
Thank you. And I don't know if the line item for professional development is 5,000. I think I quickly glanced and I saw that may have been the number, but we're here to help, to advocate, and I know that the trustees care deeply about this as well. So just know that this is a council that very much supports that. I think I asked, I don't know if there's anything that you wanted to add to my prior question about challenges with the current budget in terms of programming. what we should be on the lookout for? Are there things that we should be looking to try to protect, given the tightness of the budget?
Yeah, I think given what all of the city departments are facing, this is a very responsive and responsible approach. We are going through the process of ensuring that should there be vacancies not there that we will need at some point in the future, that we flag those issues. We had the discussion a few minutes ago about collections and how to ensure that, if we are asked to move money from physical collections to electronic collections, that's not one for one right now because it's more expensive to purchase electronic materials. And so I think we're going to do the due diligence around ensuring we do hit a maintenance target, but it's going to be difficult.
Okay. Will you let us know once what it seems like right now the main concern with collections and vacancies, once those vacancies translate to actual, like, if it ever translates, I hope that it does not cut back on services
Absolutely.
in any of our branches. Okay, thank you, because I want us to be very vigilant about that, because that's what we'll hear from community. We'll hear about that. Mr. Chair, I have actually questions for the Office of Arts, the Revolving Fund. If they're able to answer questions about the Strand Theater, I would love to ask them some questions.
Yes, I do believe that they're here and able to answer any questions. Yep, get in a nod.
Is that from the interim chief?
It is.
Yes.
Right.
You can sit. Yeah.
You could sit or be on
stand.
that microphone, whichever one you prefer. Thank you, Chief Mascari, Miss Anfield. Thank you for all the work that you do. Happy to see you in this role and for you to be leading our city on all things related to arts. I care deeply about the Strand Theater. My first year, I made sure that they got an allocated liquor license so that they could do a lot of the programming, a restricted liquor license so they could do a lot of the programming without having to constantly apply for a single a one-day alcohol license. Can you just give us an update on sort of where things stand with the Strand Theater in Upham's Corner, heart of the city, Dorchester? Want to make sure that they're able to get assistance with all the programming. So status in terms of like employees and how you're using city resources to support the work of Strand Theater.
Thank you, Councilor, and thank you, Chair, and thank you to our colleagues also at the Public Library, and also Councilor Flynn for being here. Thank you also for your advocacy on the liquor license at the Strand. Currently, we had contracted with an advisor to help us assess where would be an optimal spot for the Strand to have a concession. And currently, the way that the Strand is constructed, as it was built in 1903, I believe that it is hard to have a placement for running water, storage, and other things necessary at the moment. But we're working with a consultant to help us inform the next operating model of the Strand that would allow for concessions to be part of our operating model. Currently, there are a couple deferred priorities that we have, from a loading dock to a working marquee. So all these are being considered as part of a operating model that we're looking to revise how the Strand is being able to deliver. And top of that priority list is making use of the liquor license in order for us to maximize that opportunity.
Thank you. Is there currently a director for the Strand Theater? Who's managing it? And who's
Melody
that?
Green is
Melanie
currently the operating manager. I will note that last year, the custody of the building has been moved over to property management in order for us to address some of the capital needs that we were not able to meet as an arts and culture department.
And is Melanie Green considered a city employee?
Yes.
Okay. And what is roughly the cost right now to manage the Strand Theater every year?
I can get those numbers for you.
Yeah, I would just like to see the numbers for the Strand Theater to the chair. If you could get that to us, it'd be helpful.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have any, my time is up, and I have no additional questions.
Thank you, Council President. The chair recognizes Council Flynn. Councilor, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My questions will be centered to the library team. David, can you talk about any challenges, anything unique as it relates to security issues making sure that our libraries are safe for everybody, patrons and workers, not just at the central library in Copley, which is in my district, but throughout the city as well. Is there anything unique about public safety issues in terms of ensuring that library staff and those that want to come and use the library feel safe in a welcoming environment?
I think this is an area where we're a product of our own success in some ways, because library branches have been reinvigorated in some ways over the last 15 years, programs that started under my predecessor and we've continued and grown, indicates that everybody is welcome. It says free to all on the front of the building, and now many of our renovated spaces as well. Many of our patrons are coming with behavioral challenges, and that places a burden on staff and use of space in a way and a scale that perhaps we have not seen before. So our duty, our obligation is how to maintain safe spaces for everybody, as well as address the concerns that an individual who may have difficulty following the rules that do go with free to all, how to address that. We do have a really good team of security officers. They are a contracted firm. Many of those individuals have been with the library for many years, indeed through multiple contracts. And to many of our patrons and visitors, they're the first face they see. They treat them as a member of staff. How they're paid is irrelevant, right? To the patron coming in, and so this continues to be a challenge. We also see exterior to some of our properties and buildings challenges with individuals who are attempting to use exterior spaces in a way that they were not intended. All of that creates a burden for the institution and for the staff. And our staff, always want to start from a place of compassion to address what the needs of the individual are, but we cannot do that in a way that puts at risk either the individual safety, our staff safety, or other patrons' safety, or indeed the building safety.
Thank you, David. I agree with you. I worked with you on some public safety challenges, issues, concerns we had at the temporary library in Chinatown throughout the years. It is a city-owned building. It's owned by the BPDA. And it's also managed, the security is managed by the municipal police. But from time to time, there are issues or challenges there. Sometimes out in front, as you know, of not necessarily inside the library space, but in the outside lobby area. My other point is the Copley Square Library as well. We do have a lot of public safety challenges outside of the building also, as you know well. But like you said, our priority has to be to ensure that the workers and the people that want to come into the library feel safe and are welcoming, and the library is welcoming to everybody as long as you behave and as long as you treat everybody with respect. But if you're not going to behave or you're going to get involved in any type of criminal activity, the police should be called, in my opinion, to protect the workers, but also the patrons as well. Do you spend much money or services support on safety-related issues, or how does that factor into the budget?
A couple of different ways, Counselor. We had, just in this current fiscal year as well, there was an investment item through the city. I think it was $175,000 related to security investment equipment. So badge readers, cameras, I think some lock boxes as well are things that we were able to procure and have either completed or in the process of installing those to make sure that our collections, our staff, our buildings remain safe as well. So that was an investment that we received this year. But part of our contracted services line is for, as David was referring to, the contract that we have for security guards. So that encompasses both Central and then a number of the branches as well.
What is the security company that you use at Central?
Allied Universal.
Allied Universal, okay. Just out of curiosity, why wouldn't you use municipal police at the Central Division at Copley? Why not Boston Municipal Police, and why couldn't they do the job?
So over the years, we've looked at this, and there's a level of flexibility that we have with the contracted service to be able to move individuals around and to ensure that, you know, if a particular branch or a particular department has, you know, higher needs than normal, that we're able to move people around, change the hours as well. And the force also supports our special events programming that has additional needs, which might not be possible with municipal protective services. The municipal police have more powers than our contracted services, and with more powers, more certifications, more training, and therefore a higher cost. I don't know that we would have this. We'd be able to have the same one-for-one deployment there. But you know, at some point, it may make sense to explore a more of a hybrid model.
Yeah, thank you for the response. I had the opportunity to work with the municipal police, you know, for 8 years in the council. But I've known them and worked with them previous to that, and they're an outstanding municipal police department. They do exceptional work, very professional. They also, as you probably know, they have more powers than the traditional security guards do. So you might be saving time and resources with municipal, knowing that they have more ability to do more public safety functions. It is something to think about, but I do appreciate you having an open mind about considering municipal police down the road at some point.
Yeah, we'd be happy to consult also with property management and with the police commissioner to get their thoughts on that matter.
That would be excellent. Yeah, and I know certainly the Boston police are in and around the Copley area frequently, and they also play a critical role in the safety and security of our residents that use the public library system. I want to say thank you to the team that's here, but most importantly, say thank you to the dedicated workers throughout the library system. They really bring out the best in the residents of Boston. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Flynn. And I do want to echo the advocacy from my colleagues around making sure that we are pushing for more increase in the wages for our BPL, all of our BPL employees, and then also lifting up what Councilor Flynn had just mentioned, our libraries. I mean, as you guys, as everyone has pointed out, serves so many diverse communities that we want to make sure that we continue to have it as a safe space for all those diverse communities that we do serve. Just two questions, maybe three. The Future Club Readers Club had more than 53,000 participants in FY25. Are we looking to expand this program and maybe partnering with other departments in doing so?
The Future Readers Club will migrate into the new program of 1,000 books before kindergarten. So we're doing a little rebrand, repositioning, and I'm sure with that there will be more outreach, and therefore we would expect that number to be different and grow.
Got it. And how do you get? What's the cadence to get to 1,000 books before kindergarten? Is it 3 books a night, 5 books? Like, what is it?
Everybody learns at a different rate, so.
Okay. I thought you had the math. I have a 2-year-old, so I'm like, all right, that sounded good. I think my last question is, I have to find it. Oh, yeah, here it goes. Oh, no, that's not it. Sorry. Maybe I don't have the last question. Maybe that was all the questions I have. Well, thank you again for all your work. Thank you to your entire team. I just want to thank everyone who came to testify today. Thank you to central staff. Thank you to my council colleagues. And also thank you to my team in this hearing on dockets number 0822 through 0830 is adjourned.